The Texas Miracle is a story you hear everywhere, painted with broad strokes of booming tech hubs and sprawling suburbs that seem to grow overnight. But as you steer your car away from the neon glow of Austin and the endless construction cranes of Dallas, a much darker reality begins to blur the horizon. You are entering the forgotten pockets of the Lone Star State, where the oil booms have long since busted and the promise of prosperity has packed up and left town. Before we dive into the towns that are fading from the map, make sure you hit that subscribe button for Tax Hack Pro. We uncover the economic realities that the mainstream media ignores, helping you make smarter financial decisions no matter where you live. This is not the Texas of rising skylines. This is a landscape of boarded-up storefronts, crumbling infrastructure, and silence that screams louder than any city traffic. While the rest of the country looks at Texas as a beacon of growth, data projecting into 2026 reveals a staggering disconnect for specific communities that are rapidly spiraling toward ghost town status. We are about to embark on a sobering road trip through 10 cities that are losing people faster than they can pave their potholed roads. You will see a former coastal giant that is literally sinking into the earth and a historic oil town where vacancy signs outnumber the residents. One of these locations has a crime rate so alarming that it is driving out families who have lived there for generations. And another is facing an economic collapse so severe that experts predict it may cease to function as a municipality within the decade. Buckle up and check your fuel gauge, because we are heading into the heart of the decline right now. Number 10, Paris. As you drive into northeast Texas, you might expect the namesake of the City of Light to offer a bit of charm. But the reality of Paris is a stark contrast to its European counterpart. Instead of romance and bustling cafes, you are greeted by a quiet desperation that hangs heavy in the humid air. The replica Eiffel Tower wearing a cowboy hat feels less like a quirky roadside attraction and more like a relic from a time when this town had a sense of humor about itself. Now, as you cruise down Lamar Avenue, you notice the sheer volume of for lease signs and windows that look like they haven't been touched in years. The economic engine that once powered this community has sputtered, leaving behind a workforce that is struggling to find footing in a modern economy. According to recent data from the Census Bureau, the poverty rate in Paris has climbed to nearly 22%, a figure that is significantly higher than the national average. You can feel this financial strain as you pass through neighborhoods where maintenance has been deferred for decades. The median household income here sits at roughly $42,000, which is drastically lower than the Texas average, making it nearly impossible for residents to keep up with inflation. The Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas has noted that manufacturing jobs, which were once the lifeblood of this area, have seen a steady decline, leaving a void that low-wage retail jobs simply cannot fill. The housing market here tells an even ghostlier story. Real estate data shows that home values have stagnated compared to the explosive growth in the rest of the state, with a vacancy rate hovering around 12%. It isn't just that people are leaving, it is that no one is coming to replace them. The population has seen a slow bleed, dropping by nearly 2% over the last 5 years as young people pack up for the Metroplex, never to look back. Walking through the downtown plaza, you see the potential of what it used to be, but the cracked sidewalks and empty storefronts are undeniable evidence of a city that is slowly fading off the map. It is a heartbreaking start to our journey, seeing a place with such a distinct identity losing its fight for survival. If you want to understand the tax implications of investing in distressed markets like this, be sure to subscribe to Tax Hack Pro. We break down the risks and opportunities hidden in the data. Number 9, Kingsville. Heading south toward the coast, the landscape shifts to the brush country, and you eventually hit the city limits of Kingsville. Historically known for the legendary King Ranch and the Naval Air Station, you might assume this city has a built-in safety net. However, as you navigate the streets, it becomes clear that reliance on a few key industries has left the city vulnerable. The energy here feels stagnant, like a clock that stopped ticking somewhere around 2015. You drive past rows of housing developments that were built for a boom that has since fizzled out, leaving behind a patchwork of occupied homes and abandoned properties that drag down the property values for everyone else. The numbers painting Kingsville's future are deeply concerning. Reports from the Texas Workforce Commission indicate that the local unemployment rate consistently trends higher than the state average, often spiking above 6% even when the rest of Texas is at full employment. This lack of opportunity is driving a mass exodus. Demographic data reveals that the population has decreased by over 4% in the last decade, a rapid decline for a city of this size. You can see the result of this outmigration in the local schools, where enrollment numbers have dropped, leading to budget cuts and further consolidation. financial instability is widespread here. The poverty rate is staggering, sitting at roughly 25% according to the latest census estimates. That means 1 in 4 people you pass on the street is living below the poverty line. The median property value is stuck around $110,000, a number that sounds affordable until you realize it reflects a complete lack of demand. Crime is another factor pushing people away. Uniform crime reporting data shows that property crime rates here are nearly double the national average, likely a symptom of the economic despair. As you leave town, looking at the shuttered businesses along the highway, you get the distinct sense that Kingsville is becoming a shell of its former self, a place where history is rich, but the future is incredibly poor. Number 8, Pampa. Your journey now takes you deep into the Texas Panhandle, a place where the wind never stops blowing and the horizon stretches forever. Pampa was once the top of Texas, a thriving hub built on oil and agriculture. But as you roll into town, the silence is deafening. The classic architecture of the downtown area stands as a monument to a wealthy past, but today, those buildings are largely empty vessels. The dust seems to settle a little thicker here, covering the windows of businesses that closed down during the last oil bust and never reopened. It feels isolated, not just geographically, but economically cut off from the prosperity that is reshaping other parts of the state. The statistics for Pampa read like an obituary for a rural town. The population has fallen to just under 16,000 people, a decline of nearly 9% since its peak. This is not just a fluctuation. It is a collapse. According to economic reports from the region, the dependency on the oil and gas sector has been devastating, with sector volatility causing median household incomes to stagnate at around $48,000. When you compare that to the rising cost of living, the math simply does not work for the families trying to stay here. The housing vacancy rate in Pampa is alarming, currently estimated at nearly 18%. That means almost 1 in every 5 structures you see is empty. You drive through residential streets and spot houses that are surrendering to the elements, their roofs sagging and yards overgrown. The Bureau of Labor Statistics data highlights a shrinking labor force, meaning that even if new businesses wanted to open here, there might not be enough workers to staff them. Additionally, the population is aging rapidly, with the median age creeping upward as high school graduates leave for Amarillo or Lubbock immediately after receiving their diplomas. It creates a ghost town dynamic where the infrastructure remains, but the life force required to maintain it is evaporating into the Panhandle wind. It is a stark reminder of how quickly a resource-dependent town can crumble when the resources or the demand for them dry up. Number 7, Vernon. Continuing through the northern stretches of the state near the Oklahoma border, you arrive in Vernon. This creates a visceral reaction as you drive down the main drag. It feels like walking onto a movie set where production wrapped 20 years ago. The wide streets are eerily empty, and the beautiful vintage neon signs that once lit up the night are now dark and broken. Vernon has a rich history, but history does not pay the bills. The closure and downsizing of state facilities over the years have gutted the local economy, and you can see the scars of those decisions on every block. It is the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, but lately, they mostly know who just moved away. The data surrounding Vernon is bleak. The population has dipped below 10,000 residents, a psychological and economic threshold that spells trouble for funding and services. Census estimates show a population decline of roughly 6% over the last 8 years. Even more shocking is the poverty rate, which hovers around 21%. You can see this economic hardship in the condition of the cars on the road and the state of the local grocery stores, which have limited stock and few customers. Crime has also become a significant issue relative to the town's small size. Recent crime statistics indicate that the violent crime rate is nearly 3 times higher than the Texas average, a terrifying statistic for a rural community. This safety concern is a major driver for the vacancy rate, which real estate data places at roughly 15%. Houses here can be bought for less than $80,000, yet they sit on the market for months, sometimes years. The median household income is a meager $39,000, leaving little disposable income to support local businesses. As you drive past the shuttered storefronts of what used to be a vibrant downtown square, the sense of abandonment is palpable. Vernon is fighting a war against attrition, and judging by the empty streets, it is a war it is currently losing. Number 6, Snyder. As you steer your vehicle into the heart of the Scurry County oil fields, you find Snyder. This is a town that has lived and died by the drill bit for a century, but the current downturn feels different. It feels permanent. Driving through the industrial zones on the outskirts of town, you see acres of rusted equipment and auction signs flapping in the wind. The boom and bust cycle has finally taken a toll that the city cannot bounce back from. The mood here is heavy, a collective exhaustion from riding the economic roller coaster. You notice that even the chain restaurants, usually the last to leave, look tired and understaffed. The numbers for Snyder paint a picture of a community in freefall. The population has dropped by over 7% since 2010, and the trend line is steepening. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the local unemployment rate is consistently unstable, fluctuating wildly with oil prices but trending upward over the long term. The median home value sits around $85,000, a figure that signals a complete collapse in demand. You can buy a house here for the price of a luxury car. Yet real estate listings show properties languishing for hundreds of days. The vacancy rate in Snyder is approaching 16%, and as you drive through the neighborhoods, the blight is spreading like an infection. One empty house on a block leads to two, and soon the whole street feels unsafe. Educational data shows a sharp decline in school enrollment, forcing the district to slash budgets and cut programs, which only accelerates the flight of families with children. The median household income is roughly $52,000, but with the cost of goods rising due to the town's remote location, that money does not go far. It is a tragedy of geography and geology. Snyder gave everything it had to the energy industry, and now that the industry has evolved, the town is being left behind to rust in the West Texas sun. Number 5. Alice. Heading deep into South Texas, you reach Alice, the self-proclaimed hub city of the region. For decades, this was the logistical heart of the oil patch, a place where trucks never stopped rolling and money flowed freely. But as you navigate the highways intersecting the town today, the traffic is gone. The massive industrial yards that used to house drilling rigs and fleets of trucks are now graveyards of steel. The silence in these industrial parks is haunting. You get the sense that the world has moved on to renewable energy and automated drilling, leaving Alice with an infrastructure built for a past that no longer exists. The economic devastation here is quantified by some shocking statistics. The poverty rate in Alice has surged to nearly 28%. That is almost one-third of the population struggling to meet basic needs. Census data reveals a population decline of approximately 5% in just the last few years. As you drive down Main Street, the number of closed businesses is startling. We are talking about multi-generational family stores that have finally thrown in the towel. The sales tax revenue, a key indicator of economic health, has plummeted, leaving the city with fewer resources to fix the crumbling roads you are currently driving on. Real estate data indicates that home values have depreciated, with the median value hovering near $90,000. The vacancy rate is creeping up toward 14%. But the commercial vacancy rate is even higher, visibly evident in the hollowed-out strip malls. Crime rates have also seen an uptick, with property crime rising as economic desperation sets in. The median income is barely $40,000, which is insufficient to sustain a robust local economy. Alice was built to serve an industry that has consolidated and moved elsewhere. And without a new purpose, it is rapidly turning into a ghost town where the only thing remaining is the heat. Number 4. Big Spring. Returning to the crossroads of West Texas, Big Spring emerges from the landscape, dominated by the silhouette of its refinery. However, the industrial skyline betrays the reality on the ground. As you exit the highway, the first thing you notice is the grit. This town feels worn down, battered by both the elements and a harsh economic reality. The majestic historic hotel downtown stands tall, but it towers over streets that are lined with empty buildings and cracked pavement. There is a transient feel to the population here, as if no one plans to stay longer than they have to. Big Spring's decline is backed by alarming data. The violent crime rate here is one of the highest in the state for a city of its size, ranking in the top tier according to FBI uniform crime reporting data. This safety issue is a massive deterrent for new residents and businesses. The population has seen a steady decline, dropping by roughly 3% recently, but the turnover is high. The poverty rate sits at nearly 20%, and you can see the impact in the dilapidated housing stock on the north and east sides of town. Housing data shows a vacancy rate of over 17%. You drive past block after block where boarded-up windows are the norm. The median home value is incredibly low, around $100,000, yet the market is stagnant. Health indicators for the county are also poor, with limited access to specialized medical care forcing residents to travel to Midland or Odessa. The median household income is about $51,000, but the cost of insurance and security due to the high crime rate eats away at that paycheck. Big Spring feels like a place holding its breath, waiting for a savior that is not coming, while the buildings slowly surrender to the West Texas dust. Number 3. Burkburnett. Heading north near the Oklahoma border, just past Wichita Falls, you arrive in Burkburnett. This town was once the setting for Hollywood stories about wild oil booms. But as you roll through the quiet streets today, the drama has completely evaporated. The atmosphere is eerily calm, almost too quiet for a weekday afternoon. You realize quickly that this is a community that is graying out. You do not see young families walking with strollers or teenagers hanging out at local spots. Instead, you see retirees maintaining homes that they likely bought decades ago. It serves as a bedroom community, but even that function is failing as the regional job market contracts and young people look for opportunities in the larger metroplexes to the south. The demographic cliff here is steep and dangerous. The median age in the town is significantly higher than the Texas average, and census data reveals that the population has declined by nearly 4% since the last major count. This brain drain is evident in the school district enrollment numbers, which have been dropping, leading to budget constraints. The poverty rate is creeping up, currently sitting around 15%, but the trajectory is what is worrisome. You can feel the lack of economic vitality as you pass the sparse commercial district. Economic development reports show a stagnant rate of new business applications, meaning the tax base is shrinking while the infrastructure continues to age. The housing market offers perhaps the most telling sign of a ghost town in the making. While the vacancy rate is roughly 10%, the days on market for homes is excruciatingly long. It is not that houses are abandoned, but rather that when an older resident passes away or moves to assisted living, there is no one lining up to buy the property. The median income is around $60,000, which seems healthy on paper, but it is deceptive because it is skewed by an established older population, while the younger demographic earning potential is almost non-existent here. As you drive out of town, the overwhelming feeling is one of slow-motion attrition. Burkburnett isn't crashing and burning, it is simply fading away, quiet block by quiet block. Number 2. Port Arthur. You are now descending into the humid industrial heart of the Gulf Coast to visit a city that feels like it is fighting a war against nature itself. The drive into Port Arthur is surreal. You are flanked by massive refineries and chemical plants belching steam into the air, a display of industrial might that contrasts sharply with the neighborhoods you are about to enter. This city has been battered by repeated hurricanes and floods, and the scars are visible on every street. As you navigate the potholed roads, you see water lines still stained on the bricks of abandoned homes from the last major storm. Entire blocks have been bulldozed and left to return to the swamp. It feels apocalyptic, a place where the environment and a collapsing economy have conspired to push humanity out. The devastation here is quantified by staggering statistics. The population has plummeted, losing over 10% of its residents in the last decade alone, making it one of the fastest shrinking cities in the entire state. The poverty rate is astronomical, hovering around 27%. According to the Census Bureau, the median household income is roughly $36,000, which is poverty-level wages for a family in modern America. You can feel the struggle in the air. The downtown area, which was once a bustling commercial hub, is now a ghost town of boarded-up skyscrapers and empty department stores that loom over the street like tombstones. Crime is rampant and unchecked in many areas. Port Arthur consistently ranks high for violent crime per capita, making it dangerous to walk the streets after dark. The vacancy rate is among the highest in the nation, with nearly 20% of housing units standing empty or abandoned. Real estate values are incredibly depressed, with median home prices sitting around $65,000. Yet few are buying because the risk of flooding is a near certainty. Unemployment remains stubbornly high, often double the state average according to Workforce Commission data. As you drive past the rotting structures, you realize this city isn't just turning into a ghost town. It is being erased, house, by water, neglect, and a complete lack of hope. Number 1. Beaumont. We have reached the end of the road, and the situation in this final location is the most alarming because of its sheer scale. Just a short drive north from the coast, you enter a city of over 100,000 people that is hollowing out from the inside. You might expect a city of this size to feel alive and vibrant, but as you drive through the city center, the emptiness is jarring. Massive historic buildings, which should be the pride of the region, stand vacant and decaying. The for sale signs are everywhere, plaguing residential lawns and commercial high-rises alike. This was the birthplace of the modern oil industry at Spindletop, but driving through it now, it feels like the place where the American dream has gone to die. The data supports the grim visual reality. Census data shows that this city is losing population, while almost every other major Texas city is gaining, shedding thousands of residents in recent years. The FBI uniform crime reporting data is shocking. The city consistently ranks as one of the most dangerous in Texas, with a violent crime rate that rivals major metropolises like Houston or Dallas. This violence is the primary driver pushing families to the suburbs or out of the region entirely. Furthermore, the local water infrastructure has failed famously in recent years, leaving residents without running water for days during extreme weather, completely crumbling trust in the local government. Economic indicators are equally depressing. The poverty rate is approximately 20%, affecting a huge swath of the community. The housing market is broken despite low prices. The inventory surplus is massive because people are desperate to sell and leave. The vacancy rate is climbing past 12%, representing thousands of empty homes that drag down the value of entire neighborhoods. Commercial vacancy is also spiking, leaving large retail spaces dark. As you sit at a traffic light in the downtown district, looking at the empty streets and the gray skyline, the reality hits you hard. This is a major American city that is failing. It serves as a stark warning sign for what happens when high crime, infrastructure failure, and economic stagnation collide in one place. As you look in your rearview mirror at the fading skyline of Beaumont, the reality of this road trip settles in. These aren't just points on a map. They are communities where the American dream has hit a dead end. From the windswept plains of the Panhandle to the hurricane-scarred coast, the data shows a Texas that is leaving some of its own behind. If you found this analysis eye-opening and want to help others see the reality beyond the headlines, please hit the like button, share this video with a friend who loves Texas history, and make sure you subscribe to Tax Hack Pro so you do not miss our next journey. Drop a comment below and tell us, do you think these towns can be saved, or is it too late? Thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next deep dive.